Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Anna, a clinical psychology doctoral intern. Today we're talking about a few kind of unexpected tips for anxiety, a few things that I'm actually trying to implement this summer as a typically anxious person, trying to change the narrative I tell myself around that, but it's true. I have been an anxious person historically, and the things I'm about to suggest are a little bit different from the usual just do breathing exercises tips that people give. And wait until the end of the video because I actually have a huge surprise. It's to do with my professional life. Very big things are coming. If you're interested in knowing what those are, wait until the end. Also, sorry that I've been a little bit irregular in posting. I know I posted a short last week instead of a YouTube long. I don't know how it's called. And the reason for that is that I was actually at my own graduation ceremony. I'm not technically a doctor yet. It's still about another month or so until I can call myself that, until the degree is conferred. That's part of what I'm going to talk about at the end of the video, so stay tuned. So when we talk about overcoming anxiety, first of all, I think it's important to differentiate between normal anxiety and pathological anxiety. Pathological basically just means it is impairing your functioning in day-to-day life. It's causing you a lot of distress. Normal anxiety is an emotion that all of us should have from time to time when there is an imminent threat in our surroundings. And so I definitely don't want to make it seem like the goal is to completely get rid of anxiety. The goal for me is to get rid of pathological anxiety. That I think is an okay goal to have. And so for me, when I'm sort of tallying how many days has it been since I had anxiety, I don't mean how many days has it been since I've ever felt anxious. I mean, how many days has it been since I've been spiraling or been unable to control my anxiety or been in fight or flight for an extended period of time when it didn't fit the facts. So number one thing that I've been trying to get rid of anxiety, and I've been doing this since about November of last year, is psychodynamic therapy. Now, if you know anything about my treatment modality that I've been using over the years, I used to be a very concrete, hands-on, skills-based therapist. I do still draw from a lot of DBT and ACT skills and concepts. I do teach some of those skills with clients as pertinent. But I had tried some types of CBT for myself, and it just was kind of surface level. It didn't really ever nip the problem in the bud. The problem just continued to morph into something else. And so last November, I wanted to try psychodynamic therapy because it was something that I'd never tried before. And I know that it tries to get at the root of the problem and really attack it from its origin. And obviously, it's a process. It's a more long-term form of therapy, less structured, less directive. It's much more of just letting life unfold for you, and within that unfolding, gaining insights that then help you to break old patterns and build new adaptive form of patterns in a more natural way rather than sort of forcing yourself to do homework. So it's very much a process. It's something more long-term. But the interesting thing is, when I got at the root of one type of anxiety for me, completely dissipated it for me. When I realized, oh, this is why I have this specific type of anxiety, this is the symbolism that it has in my psyche, never had that type of anxiety since then. It just vanished into thin air. And so that's what I'm trying to do with all the different things that I'm anxious about, is to figure out what is this really about at its core, and through that insight, hopefully release those anxieties. So one thing I might suggest, if you're someone like me who is anxious and has tried other forms of treatment, stop using therapy as something you hope to give you a quick fix, and instead just use it to explore your inner world and see what comes from that. Because change will naturally unfold if you do that. You don't need to be so focused on quick symptom alleviation and worksheets and homework and all that stuff. It's not necessary, and it might not always be the most effective. Tip number 2 for anxiety that I have been trying to use a lot, and I've spoken ad nauseum on this channel about, is acceptance. So specifically radical acceptance of whatever life throws your way, whatever goes wrong, whatever worries you have about the future, just accepting that these things could happen. Sometimes life is not according to our preferences, and that is fine. We just have to go along for the ride because we have no other choice. Both ACT and Stoicism, as well as DBT, have really helped me with this. So in learning how to do ACT and DBT on my own clients, obviously that's really cemented the concept for me. And then when I read about Stoicism, it dawned on me how similar that concept was as well. I do have a video on that. And I actually also have a video on using acceptance towards alleviating anxiety, so also check out that if it's interesting to you. But the general gist of it is, bad things could happen. Yeah. It's not worth ruining the quality of your life trying to prevent them or trying to worry about them, because it happens. You can't do anything about it. Just go along for the ride, like I said. It's all about surrender and control, just letting things happen the way they are going to happen instead of trying to get fate to conform to what you think it should look like. For example, the other day I was getting a new passport and the line was a lot longer than I expected. I had somewhere to be, but you know what? I didn't worry about it because there was nothing I could do. I just tried to enjoy the present moment, be mindful, look at what was around me, and just keep a cheerful attitude. Tip number 3 is soothe your nervous system. I do have a video on this that came out relatively recently that goes into this really in depth, looking at all the different ways to ground yourself through breath work, through movement, through touch, through community with other people. Soothing your nervous system is super important for a bottom-up approach towards anxiety. Bottom-up basically means you start by targeting the visible concrete things like bodily symptoms like racing heart, high blood pressure, fast breathing, and then hope that that targets and hope that that goes up to the underlying anxiety and alleviates some of that for you. And the reason that works so well is because anxiety is very physiological and emotions are very bodily sensations. You know, there is the subjective experience of an emotion. They can't be really put into words. It's just, I feel anxious, I feel happy. But there is also the physical sensation associated with it. And so if you can target the physical sensation, that can really improve the emotional experience itself. So soothing your nervous system is all about trying to stay in rest and digest mode as much as possible instead of fight or flight. Tip number 4, and I feel like this is a really important one that often gets overlooked. I've been trying very hard recently to set out with the intention every day of prioritizing certain values. And those values include keeping an attitude of joy, really savoring life and everything that comes my way, celebrating everything, and really leaning into gratitude. It's just this general sense of look how great everything is at this moment. Even when things aren't necessarily exactly how you want them to be, taking a playful, cheerful attitude on every moment. So every day I start with a page of gratitude journaling. We'll get to that in a moment. Stay tuned. And I set the intention that I'm going to focus on whatever values for that day. And oftentimes those values include savoring life, celebrating, resting, relaxing, being playful, having this sort of like sprightly, playful energy on life. And at the end of the day, I check in with myself. How aligned was I with those values? Was I mostly aligned? Was I partly aligned? Was I hardly aligned and I still have some work to do the next day? If I wasn't aligned, what can I do better tomorrow to be more aligned? So something that actually helped me with this was, first of all, I've been reading books on just like ways to stay healthy and like have a positive attitude on life. And also there's this woman I know who has been a huge inspiration to me. She's constantly traveling the world, constantly celebrating something. Everywhere she goes, she's like, look how beautiful this culture is. Look at this food. Look at this nature. Look at these drinks. It's so amazing. She's constantly laughing and dancing with her partner and her friends. She calls them her tribe. And at the same time, she's a very down-to-earth person who very much thinks for herself, doesn't let herself get pulled into different ideologies, and has crafted a beautiful life for herself. And it really helped seeing that modeled for me, because I think it is such a rare attitude in this life to see someone really embody celebration and gratitude and wonder about the world. And when I saw that, I thought, that is so cool. First of all, I want to be friends with this person. So that's what I'm aiming for. And secondly, I want to be this person. I find myself really inspired by this and I want to embody more of that myself. So that is tip number 4 that has helped me a huge amount. And now tip number 5, this is completely linked to tip number 4, is a daily journaling practice. This is essentially what has enabled me to implement number 4, as well as the other things I talked about in this video. Where you focus your energy, you draw more of that thing. And that's why when I was focusing so much on symptom relief in therapy, it wasn't doing much because I was too focused on the negative. I was too focused on what I was trying to get rid of. So I decided through a daily journaling practice that I'm going to focus on the things that I want more of, the things that I want to draw into my life, like the values that I just mentioned: joy, connection, gratitude, love, feeling proud of myself, celebrating, feeling grateful. And as you know, I've been journaling for years. I have my own sort of templates that I use to journal as needed. But this new journaling practice I've been doing for a few months now, and this is a daily journaling practice. And I cannot tell you how helpful it has been. I do it every morning and then at the end of every day. And it has really kept me centered in terms of sticking to my values, sticking to my goals, sticking to self-care, checking in with my own emotions, and ultimately minimizing anxiety by focusing on the positives of life. And as I was doing this, I try to do it every day, but there have been a few days where I couldn't. One was I just forgot to do it that day. Another one was like a period of 5 days where I was traveling. And let me just tell you, the days when I didn't journal happened to be the days when my anxiety was the worst during this interval of time. And so obviously correlation does not necessarily equal causation. I have a lot going on in my life. A lot of change makes sense that I would feel anxious, but I do think it's telling that when I wasn't grounded through this journaling practice, things went haywire. And the exciting thing is, I decided I'm actually going to put out this journaling practice for all of you to use as well. So I have a mental health journal coming out probably sometime in August. I don't know the exact date yet, but it kind of depends on when my doctorate gets conferred. And the reason for that is that I want to have on there that I am a doctor of psychology. Like I want for people to know this isn't just some random person creating a mental health journal. This is someone who's been trained in knowing how to do this the right way. And so I don't want to publish it until I have my doctorate, and that should be very, very soon. If there are any of you that have been with me on this journey since starting my YouTube channel years ago, you probably know just as well as I do that this has been such a long process. I mean, that's what a doctorate entails. And I'm really happy to finally be able to share the fruits of my work here. Oh, I'm getting emotional talking about this. But basically, thank you to all of you that have been on this journey with me thus far. And I want to give back somehow by showing you basically what I do myself. Like this isn't like a quick money grab of like, oh, let me publish a mental health journal that people buy it. This is genuinely what I live and breathe myself. This is what I find to be helpful. And so I absolutely practice what I preach in this case. It's been super helpful for me overcoming my anxiety, and I think that it could be really helpful for you as well. So I will let you know when it's out. That is one thing that's coming up. A couple other things coming up in addition to my doctorate getting really, really close and the mental health journal coming out is I actually have a couple other things in the works for publishing. And again, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I have always been a writer, creative writer, fiction writer. I have been working on something for a few years. It's actually been ready for publishing, but then I decided to send it to an editor and I did a developmental edit, so I still have some tweaks to do. And in addition to that, something that just kind of unfolded out of the blue over the past few months has been a nonfiction book. And so that I'm also feeling really excited for. I don't know exactly when they will be published, the nonfiction and the fiction. It really depends on my editing process, how much time I have. Also depends on whether I decide to self-publish or publish traditionally. But you may know writing is my calling in this world. It is the reason I live. And so I'm very excited to be able to share those with you, and I hope that you all enjoy them as much as I love writing. So just a few updates, because I know sometimes people comment like, when is the novel coming out? Hopefully very soon. I'm hoping October. But we'll see about that. In conclusion, the things that are helping me overcome my anxiety that I recommend you try as well. First of all, psychodynamic therapy. If you've tried other types of therapy and they haven't worked, could be really helpful. Focusing on acceptance, focusing on soothing your nervous system, setting out with the intention of celebrating and enjoying and savoring every single day, and a daily journaling habit. Thank you all so much for being here. As I'm going through all these life transitions, like getting married, soon to have my doctorate, publishing books. It's obviously a very scary time for me, but it's also a very exciting time. And I am so immensely grateful to those of you who appreciate what I do and want to be here along for the journey. Oh God, I'm getting emotional again. But thank you so much. I'll see you soon.